welcome back to the Overwatch Pacific Championship Week 8, day number 2. I'm Dallas Easy Fighterty, joining me here on the couch, Matt Smite Ross and Kevin Averill Walker. And we are currently in SunSister's home day, going to be their second matchup now, coming up against Flash Wolves, obviously losing their first series, 3-0 to Detonator Gold. Now they're going to be taking the might on of Flash Wolves.
Flash Wolves, the team sitting right at the top of the table, up there with AHQ. They have 2 matches today, so they win them both and they will pull ahead. AHQ only have 1 to catch up, so no matter what, Flash Wolves should be able to stay ahead with that. But no matter what, these guys are currently at the top of the table, and SunSister about as far away from that as you can be.
And that makes a huge difference as well, including if we look at where SunSister just came from versus Detonator, who are the bottom team right after SunSister, now going up against Flash Wolves. You're right, it is a night and day difference right on the other end of that table.
Well, I mean, if SunSister can even pick themselves up a map on our first series, which is obviously going to be on Control, that would be a victory in my eyes, I feel.
Look, I said it before the break as well. My prediction is that after the performance against Detonator, SunSister will struggle to not even get to get even a single map off of Flash Wolves and even a single stage on Control. I don't even see that happening.
I'm expecting Flash Wolves to pull out something a little bit more experimental, similar to what we saw out of them yesterday. I'm expecting pretty much for Flash Wolves to use this as an opportunity to kind of deny a little bit of information towards AHQ, Blank and Machi, but also for them to sort of refine things they're trying out, like still getting that triple DPS on par with the triple DPS from Blank. If they want to go there, make sure we can check out where is K-Momo Soldier sitting, where is K-Momo's Genji sitting, what else can Flash Wolves pull out?
I mean, we even saw like Bacon Jack on Genji at one point yesterday against Fireball, which was just not something they would do against some of these teams that are in the top 3, against Blank, against AHQ. Flash Wolves would not play those compositions against those teams, but up against Fireball they did, and we've got to say there's probably even more room for experimentation up against SunSister as well. And the important thing as well is that, like Averill said, denying information, and that's even going to come down to map picks as well when we go into Hybrid as well. I don't expect to go into Escort, but when we go to Hybrid, we're likely to see something a little bit odd that doesn't give away too much information.
Well, it is also one of the most exciting things as well, you know, when you get to see a team with the raw skills such as Flash Wolves, you know, and they do bust out these sort of experimental compositions, you know, and we get to see them sort of mix things up a little bit, and it's always exciting to see because you really want to see how that obviously compares when they do come up against some of those big guns, you know, like AHQ, Blank, and obviously Machi's in that conversation now on top. The other thing to note as well is that if they do sort of, you know, try these experimental sort of compositions, if something doesn't work out for them and they do end up dropping any kind of maps to SunSister, they are going to be playing Fireball right after this. And Fireball obviously have been looking quite strong coming off yesterday's performance. This is where, you know, Fireball might be able to almost swindle something away from Flash Wolves.
To be honest, I think even if Flash Wolves drop the map, as, you know, ridiculous as that sounds, but, you know, I wouldn't even be surprised if that was just a false sense of security for other teams watching. I mean, this is at the stage now where the sort of metagame beyond the actual playing of Overwatch itself does become a little bit important. What information you're leaking out, what information you're keeping for yourself, and even if you do drop a map to SunSister, look, you can be AHQ dropping a map to, who was it? It was
Detonator.
To Detonator. You can be HQ dropping a map to Detonator, but it's difficult to use that. Difficult to say that's a definitive example of AHQ's true skill, right? And you can say the same thing about Flash Wolves here.
Well, obviously the boys on the SunSister side, we've just seen them play before. Some really good showing coming up from Mollis there, but the boys on Flash Wolves going to have their work cut out for them, you know, coming up against the likes of Zonda, obviously the big gun himself, and Bacon Jack, obviously, you know, these DPS players, I'd say a definite level above what SunSister can bring to the table before we even bring the rest of the team into the conversation there.
Yeah, I mean, even as much as we can say, yeah, Mollis, he's been improving on that Tracer, even stepping above the likes of XQQ we've lauded over before, it's still not nearly on the level of Zonda, Bacon Jack, anyone on Flash Wolves right now. It's such a big ask for these players to go up against Flash Wolves right now. You match them role for role, character for character even, and there's no one that seems to come close right now.
And I mean, you can just take a look at the looks on their faces. You know, they looked very cheery when they came up against Detonator Gold. Now looking a little bit more serious, maybe defeated even before the match even starts.
I think it'd be difficult for any team to look cheery going up against Flash Wolves. I think as the standard goes, if you're going up against Flash Wolves, it's tough. It's tough for anybody, wiping the sweat off the brow as well for XQQ. I mean, to be honest, I think he's going to need to wipe a bit more sweat after this game.
Well, of course, we're coming up to Flash Wolves as well, and we talk about Zonda, we talk about Bacon Jack, but there are, surprisingly, other players on the team. And we saw Realman first up, and again, we see a lot of unsung heroes. Realman just does his job, and he's also that filler player as well, playing that Torbjorn role occasionally. Sinclair is the one that will swap off onto Sombra, of course, but those two players are still part of the core of Flash Wolves. And despite Flash Wolves a few weeks ago being a team that, you know, if Zonda die, if Bacon Jack dies, then maybe things start to fall apart. I don't think that's the case anymore, and that still comes off the backbone of the supports and the tanks on the team.
I mean, such a flexible team as well. You know, you can see obviously going through a lot of these players, you know, the supports can sort of flex onto DPS and other sort of roles. The tanks can can flex onto DPS as well. So obviously a lot of depth in this team. And again, as Avril mentioned before, you know, this is where we're going to really get to see them branch out and obviously try some different strategies. I think I'd love to see we probably won't see Zonda obviously switch away from his normal role, but you know, they can obviously muck around a little bit in regards to who plays what tonight.
I mean, the most muck around I've ever seen Flash Wolves was like Zonda on an Orisa, and it was a King's Row defense against somebody, I can't remember, might have been Detonator back in the day. Back in the day, a few weeks ago,
Ancient
weeks
history.
ago, right? But you know, we have seen SunSister do some different stuff, particularly when they're playing against teams which they're very favoured to beat, which at this stage is basically every other team in the whole competition. So I mean, I think this is a good opportunity for Flash Wolves still to sort of branch out a little bit and just see how far outwards horizontally they can go.
Well, SunSister taking us back to Nepal, obviously picked this against Detonator Gold. Didn't have so much luck against Detonator Gold, and I mean, coming up against Flash Wolves on Nepal, this is like swimming up a waterfall. I mean, unless you're Link, then you can obviously do it.
That's like every map though, right?
But when a carp swims up a waterfall, they turn into a dragon. That's an actual proverb.
Okay.
That's an actual proverb. It's actually based off the Magikarp and the Gyarados evolution.
I was about to be like,
well.
is this a Pokemon reference here?
Well, Pokemon is a reference to that. So it's I mean, I don't think that's going to happen because I don't think SunSister will be able to climb this waterfall, but hey, if they do, then even if it is Flash Wolves experimenting a little bit, the difference is right there. Flash Wolves tied for the top spot on the leaderboard right now, and SunSister yet to pick up a single win.
And
even
the other
against
thing as
Detonator.
well, obviously, Flash Wolves will be playing 2 games back-to-back here, so looking to get their 16th and 17th win on the board there. AHQ only having 1 game tonight, so Flash Wolves looking to solidify a top spot position, but will be obviously 1 game ahead of AHQ Esports Club there. But they're really looking to sort of stretch that lead as far as they can, obviously with Blank and Marchi now sort of battling away for that 3rd position.
It's really just Flash Wolves and AHQ as well today, going in for their shift at work, picking up their paycheck, because these are expected wins. Anything that goes wrong today, it will have massive effects on them in the top 3, but anything going wrong is such a low percentage chance of happening that they almost don't have to worry about it. And that's why we're talking about the fact that Flash Wolves can try all these different compositions. They can experiment a little bit. We're not going to see anything super duper crazy like Junkrat's coming out of nowhere, except maybe Sanctum, where, you know, that's really the only place you see Junkrat appear, and even then very, very rarely. We're just going to see things like maybe Zonda will be on you know, a lot more heroes instead of just sticking to that soldier every single time. We might even see Bacon Jack onto Genji again. Things like that are going to be the extent of...
You won't see Bacon Jack and Genji unless they're really not taking it seriously.
But we did see that yesterday though, so...
Because they weren't taking it seriously.
And that was against a team that had at least 1 win, so they may be taking this a little less seriously.
So Flash Wolves are not, they're allowed to lose maps today as long as they get the win at the end of the day. They just need that 1 extra point on the scoreboard, puts them ahead of AHQ, really solidifies their position as a #1 team in the competition, at least for this round robin. So even if they drop 2 maps tonight, as long as they got the win in the end, it's not a big deal for Flash Wolves. I think they're pretty confident they can always secure that win at the end of the day.
Well, we're just about to get underway here on Nepal. Flash Wolves taking on SunSister. And I mean, SunSister are going to have had a huge improvement from their prior series to really be able to take this one to Flash Wolves. Flash Wolves looking like the big favorite team to win this one.
The problem is SunSister do not feel like a team that can out-frag Flash Wolves. They do not feel like a team that can out-macro them either. It's going to be finding every single little weakness they can in Flash Wolves and exploiting it as best they can while really covering their own weaknesses. And that's just such a hard ask for a team in SunSister's position right now.
And we see Flash Wolves here going with that triple DPS lineup here. As Avril mentioned before, going to be just testing the waters out, seeing what they can get done with this. Nice little bit of work for them, seeing how SunSister are positioned now, take control of that high ground, but again, that counter positioning now coming out from Flash Wolves, not really letting SunSister do too much damage before this fight gets started, and straight away that pressure right onto Odinkun, and that's going to be that. He's already taken out a lot of damage, already lost now for the side of SunSister.
And both soldiers are actually playing in this triple DPS composition, so they are quite vulnerable. It's all about which team dives onto that soldier first and gets the kill. And we saw exactly what happened. Flash Wolves got in there, and even in the trade back, it's SunSister picking up a kill onto Zonda because, like I just said, soldiers are one of the more vulnerable characters, at least on the DPS side of things. Yeah, you can go in, find a Zenyatta as well, but they're usually more protected. SunSister already swapping things up. At least it's not well into the match already.
And there we see the timing there from Jongi as well, almost flawless there on his leap-ins there. The pressure perfect, very well done there just to take out these players. Night Owl dropping low, gets taken out there by Realman just to finish him off. XQQ, no support by his side, taken out as well. That's obviously the disadvantage of playing McCree. Zonda just cleaning up his counterpart soldier there in the likes of Odinkun, and Flash Wolves just passing now 40%. Ultimate's up as well to work with into this next fight.
If XQQ wants to play this McCree, he needs to be sitting right on top of Odenkin, right on top of his healers, so he can flashbang any flanker that comes through. Even flashbanging Jongi right now would be an advantage because they can all turn focus fire. Remember, they are triple DPS. They can kill that monkey very, very quickly. So XQQ needs to not get caught off guard, needs to be sticking with his team and just going for hardcore peel.
Oh, and K-Momo already taking XQQ out early into this fight. Odinkun as well being taken out by Bacon Jack. They're not even committing any ultimates into this fight, just completely left-clicking down the side of SunSister here. And as they tried to sort of reposition and go around that left side, just Flash Wolves all over them there. And Zonda up on that high ground position, has teammates to help him out as well. And SunSister really need to knock them off their perch right now. As you can see, Zonda just nested up on top of that pillar.
Oh, he fell off.
Oh.
That's it. GG. Flash Wolves out of here. No, okay, look, Flash Wolves haven't used a single ultimate just yet. They get a pick onto Zonda, which is really going to be the best shot SunSister have.
And now they're going to be popping some ultimates out here. The sound barrier, though, going to be coming through from the side of Flash Wolves, as well as SunSister as well. Odinkun going to get a little bit of work done with his tactical visor. This is the best showing yet coming out from SunSister, but K-Momo's Dragon Blade looking to keep things alive for Flash Wolves. Overtime ticking down, so this is a must-win fight for SunSister. But still, they are losing players. There's Bacon Jack up in the back lines. Now Zonda's back in the fray, dropping that tactical visor of his own there. Overtime ticking down, and it does indeed look like Flash was going to be picking up their first stage.
Well, easy. I think that was about the most expected outcome I could have seen there. The last fight for SunSister, they probably shouldn't have even got those few kills they got there. I think Flash will slipped up just a little bit there.
That's a huge victory now coming out for SunSister.
I mean, really it is, right? SunSister finding a kill into Zonda is fantastic. They just need to be doing that a whole lot more often at the start of every other fight. I mean, in a position, if they had about, 30% more to go on the point, then sure, maybe they could have actually taken that fight as a bit of a win, killing Zonda at the start when he has tactical visor. The problem was the rest of Flash Wolves still had their ultimates anyway, and Zonda, well, he got back to the point anyway.
Surely not, John. Surely not right now. Are they going to be playing this composition? They are.
Avril mentioned it.
Indeed. Jongi going to be busting out the Orisa, the three tank setup here.
Well, look, that's a lot of barriers to get past to get to Zonda. This is a hardcore protect the soldier composition right now. You have to get pretty far through. Also, the Hulk from Orisa, that mini graviton, will pull people into that bottomless pit as well. You've got to be constantly watching out for that too. It brings a lot of peel as well. The barriers are not the only thing that Orisa brings.
And you can see the damage is being dished out right now into SunSister's side, and they're now finally picking up those kills. And they push forward now, looking to send SunSister back to the spawn, getting their way into this choke point. And once they sort of set up in this now, they are going to be getting the first cap. It's going to be so hard for SunSister to break this wall down.
Also because look at all the barriers they can just leave up there. And look, this is going to be so hard to break through because again, you've got the mini grab, the Holt coming up from Marissa, just grouping everyone together, makes it a fantastic target for Zonda and his Helix rockets. That's going to charge up his tactical visor immediately. And then it also builds into things like Earth Shatter. And then you've got to wonder how is SunSister even going to get past all of that to find Zonda.
Well, Mollis now getting himself in a decent little bit of a flank position, but you can see Zonda all over him there, not giving him an inch of space to work with. They're now in that 1v1 duel up in the back lines here. Flashwolves still sticking together. So many shields to break through. XQQ already taken out of this one. Mollis getting taken down up in those back lines there. Elu getting a nice boot kill there onto K-Momo, but now Zonda with that tactical visor and the rest of the Flashwolves squad just walking all over SunSister.
Easy, this is looking way too familiar to the first map, if not in team composition, but in results, because Flashwolves, they're yet to use another ultimate. They're sitting at just over 50% on the points. But how are SunSister going to break through this? They need to go into one more fight, try and bait out ultimates for Flashwolves, which we've already seen they don't need to win fights, and then they need to come in again.
Oh, the Graviton Surge coming through. Nice Transcendence coming through from Night Owl to push them through.
This is
SunSister out of nowhere getting these kills that they so desperately need right now. The Dragon Blade and the Tactical Visor doing huge amounts of work. You've got to give credit to Night Owl there as well. Greatly timed Transcendence. Something now coming up for SunSister.
Also, a little bit to be said for Sinclair as well. Couldn't find the Biotic Grenade into that Graviton. That would have completely nullified that Transcendence and they would have got value out of it. But hey, look, the results are there. SunSister cleaned up the fight. They paid a few ultimates to do it. But remember, Flashwolves only used Graviton. Good start for SunSister.
Great stuff now as well. Mollis picking himself up the second there. We're in a great position now. They turn and try to push him out of this position. But oh, Zonda, of course, the king, the man, the myth, the legend. Cleaning up right now with that tactical visor right on the point as well, forcing SunSister to get themselves in here and take the fight to them. That supercharger as well going to be up for Jongi. Let's see when he's going to sort of drop this one in here as well and let Zonda go to work, but when he's dead, not much is going to be happening there.
Flashwolves, they do not need to use a ton of ultimates. Oh, they're just going to find more picks if they get the delay kills here. The Primal Rage is actually used. He'll get out, sure, but they're not going to have that to even stall on the point once more. SunSister, only a pulse bomb. You have to find a miracle here.
And they're already ready for the flank that SunSister are trying to throw at them right now. Jongi taking that duel with Zepman, taking him out very convincingly there. Elu trying to skate his way in, looking to keep this overtime alive, but Elu falling down as well. Mollis did manage to pick up the supercharger with his pulse bomb, so a little something there, but XQQ's Dragon Blade not nearly getting enough mileage off the back of that, and Flashwolves take this one. Leading Nepal here 2-0. I mean, you've got to give credit to SunSister though. They do get themselves a cap.
Yeah, I mean, look, they played into that Graviton pretty much ideally, throwing out the Transcendence, being able to survive, and then turning it around with the Tactical Visor. And you've got to wonder, right? There are so many barriers that are going to get in the way of a Tactical Visor. How was it that Adenkin could get through them? How was it that he could get the Tactical Visor to actually find the kills there? So it's fantastic that he was in a good position to be able to do that. So yeah, SunSister absolutely deserved that. That was a fight that Flashwolves very much intended to win.
Well, I'm really hoping we get to see this come out from Flashwolves here. The Bacon Jack on the Reaper.
It's actually his signature champion, surprisingly, looking up on his profile. Of course, not a whole lot of opportunities to use it lately in the game, but here you are, Easy. It's your birthday. We're going to see the Reaper for Bacon Jack.
And obviously Zonda, though, on that Pharaoh has been very disastrous on this hero time and time again. Night Owl taken out early into this fight, but Odinkun picking up the trade here. Bacon Jack not being able to close the distance just yet, but look at this. As Zepman tries to jump in, he's going to be walking into these shotguns right here of Bacon Jack. He will manage to escape with his life, but this is Flashwolves now setting themselves up a very dominant position and should be able to get themselves a first cap. But look at this, these couple of SunSister players are split apart from the rest of their team. They need to get back in and help them out, but Bacon Jack now has closed the distance and will be able to go to work with the Reaper.
Yeah, I mean, look, SunSister tried to take a fight underneath the bridge where Pharaoh is a little bit less effective, but you know who's close range effectiveness is fantastic? It's Reaper, but also Rez has worked wonders too.
Well, it comes through to keep this momentum and tempo alive here. Bacon Jack looking to get the broom out and just clean up these last few SunSister players. When things were looking good for them, they picked themselves up a few, but the strength of the Flashwolves side, just too much to topple.
Yeah, so the way that Flashwolves composition is also going to work, right, is that when you're going up against Pharmacy, you either shoot it out of the sky or you dive onto the enemy team. Flashwolves have Bacon Jack, who's going to kill any Winston that dives on top of them, so they're changing their composition up. I do like the way they're going about this. They're going a little bit of anti-dive. There's not a huge amount of dive, in fact, any at all, apart from Jongi coming up from Flash Wheel. So instead, they're looking for picks. They're looking for XQQ to shoot Zonda out of the
watch out
sky.
for this. Bacon Jack comes right in with the spinning top of
it's
Doom.
eaten.
But great flashbang to stop that one out. That's absolutely huge there as well now. So Bacon Jack's ultimate not getting a lot of work done with it. This is going to be SunSister's moment now to walk their way in as they hit that sound barrier as well. The Transcendence being used on top of things here. So SunSister, when things look dire, they didn't actually check that completely. But I mean, huge work to stop that one out. Odinson being the star of this fight. And XQQ coming up with a lot of shots here on the McCree.
Look, Odinkin's tummy must be incredibly full because he just ate an entire Death Blossom and an entire Barrage. And in fact, I think by the end of it, he actually had to tank it with his body instead. But look, he took up both those ultimates, which was fantastic. And then Flash Wolves in what felt like desperation tried to throw out some defensive ultimates to try and stay alive, but it wasn't enough, and SunSister managed to pull it out. And remember, this is a composition that just swapped a few heroes as well, so there was no hope of them being in the lead for an ultimate, so SunSister just blocked out what Flash Wolves could bring.
Oh, well, it's business time now for Flash Wolves. Bacon Jack switching up to the Tracer, which he is just obviously so strong on here. The hero that's had the most sort of impact for him. And now look at the change here. Flash Wolves making extremely short work here of SunSister. Zonda just giving Elu a little bit of the drive-by there. No SunSister players now going to be left to contest this one. Flash Wolves taking the cap back for their own.
The good news for SunSister is that Tracer is still susceptible to those hooks, those flashbangs. The bad news is Bacon Jack's a great player who's never going to let himself get into those situations. A great Tracer player will always just either bait out one of those abilities or just never be in range, never be in line of sight. Bacon Jack, he's got his Pulse Bomb as well. Remember, he just swapped to that. He just swapped to it and already has Flashbang ready.
Oh, XQQ finding nothing from his Deadeye there. The Self-Destruct, though, going to be finding a little bit of room now for SunSister to work their way in. Mollusk's going to be actually able to take out Zonda out of the sky. So this is now, again, a great showing from SunSister. Get themselves the cap. The Whole Hog being used there as well from Mollusk. So they do commit a lot into this fight. Flash Wolves can now answer back. Slinkler did commit the Reds, though.
Yeah, that's a pretty big deal as well because they definitely didn't get the point back off of it too. So SunSister, what they've still got left is going to be that Transcendence, and that is going to be what can keep them alive through a Barrage long enough for them to just kill Zonda in the sky. Barrage does actually outdamage Transcendence, but it's still going to take a long time. It makes it a lot longer because Barrage usually takes less than a second to kill someone. Transcendence gives you that time to just shoot Zonda out of the sky.
Well, definitely the best showing here from SunSister, but losing Night Owl early into this is not what they were looking for. The Barrage looking like it's being set up here. XQQ getting himself another Deadeye, but getting absolutely nothing out of it as Bacon Jack fries him for breakfast there, taking him out before he can even get the shot off. And now with the Pulse Bomb up as well, the Barrage being used there from Zonda to take out Zetman. And Odinson being the only one to get himself a trade there. Flash Wolves recapping this one, but SunSister got themselves the lead off that.
Well, they can rush onto the point, but unless they get there soon, they are going to lose this match, and it's going to be match point as well for Flash Wolves. SunSister need to rush there. They will make it, but can they survive on the point?
Oh, XQQ busting out his Tracer now, something we don't often see here. Let's see if he can bring anything to the table. Mollusk being able to pick up Sinkler, so one support now down on the side of Flash
That's the
Wolves.
res as well.
That is very good now, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough for the side of SunSister as the players are just being split apart here. The Primal Rage as well from Jongi now just going to town. Zetman going to be finished off here, overtime ticking down, and surely enough, Flashful's going to be picking up Nepal 3-0, but SunSister on Village there, getting themselves to 99%.
Yeah, a bit of a better performance as well, even including Sanctum. It did feel like these were different compositions coming up from Flash Wolves, but this is still not an expected result for SunSister to start winning fights and even get up to the 99%. It did feel like Flash Wolves were just getting a bit desperate in some of the fights where they threw out a lot of ultimates in the hopes of trying to salvage not just a botched Death Blossom, but a botched Barrage as well, and then throwing out more to just try and salvage that fight, and that just didn't work out at all.
I was actually so hyped for that Death Blossom flank there as well. When it was getting eaten, I was just like, no, please, I wanted to see it. I wanted to see the Reaper play of the game. It's been so long. But I mean, you know, SunSister still had a couple of moments of greatness there, you know, but still, Flash Wolves just looking so strong across the board.
Like I said, experimentation out of Flash Wolves, and that is the reason you don't run a Reaper anymore, because what Bacon Jack does in the Reaper is essentially the same thing he does in Tracer anyway, but just worse in every single regard. That Reaper flank ult doesn't work for the same reason that you can't do the same thing with the Tag Visor and a Nano Boost on the flank as well. You haven't dealt with the Diva yet. The Matrix is still up. You're also playing directly into a McCree with the flashbang. You haven't dealt with the necessary counterplay threats before you actually make a play like that yourself. So I mean, yeah, a lot of reasons for why you don't bring out Reaper anymore, and I think that was a good example of why.
Well, something that could obviously work out now for SunSister if they do make a few changes there, maybe lure Flash Wolves into that sort of false sense of security. You see obviously some of the complacency and the cockiness coming out from Flash Wolves, obviously losing them a couple of fights there. If they can sort of make that work to their advantage. But again, I'm just going to counteract my own point there, because you see, once Flash Wolves, they did lose that one fight there, Bacon Jack instantly onto Tracer, and it's obviously business time for Flash Wolves.
Yeah, I mean, they just sort of turned around and said, oh, okay, Bacon Jack, you've had your fun on Reaper. Let's put you back on a real hero. Let's get you back out. A real hero, right? Just wait for the Reaper buffs. I'm sure it'll be fine then. But look, Tracer is, like Avril said, just so much more effective than Reaper, specifically for Bacon Jack as well. So as soon as that came out, he was getting a lot more effect. You saw it as well. Even though XQQ, he's got the flashbang, Mollus had the hook as well to shut down a Tracer. Did you ever see Bacon Jack get hit by either of those? How many times did you see him killing them as well? He was just constantly in a great position to deal with it.
I was actually quite happy to see the experimentation on Sanctum with the Orisa pick. I was wondering if someone was eventually going to bring it out, and yeah, I want to say that Flash Wolves did manage to pull it off. It doesn't look super refined. I mean, in the sense that SunSister was still able to break through eventually, but their initial hold was really good. Now, if Flash Wolves managed to keep the spawn hold for a little bit longer, I mean, that's kind of the goal towards the end there. You want to be able to keep the spawn hold. You got infinite shields, Winston's shield, Orisa's shield, Xayah bubbles as well. There's just so much health and shielding to get through. That's when it's super effective, but SunSister able to break through. So I think on that regard, SunSister adapted really well.
I mean, it's a really sort of interesting composition to see as well. I'd really like to see how some of the stronger teams in the tournament, will they ever sort of use this composition, do you feel, against them?
No.
And there you have it.
It's too. it's unless it has to be for Flash Wolves anyway. It has to be far more refined than that. It's actually you teams like there's counterplay. These very specific niche strategies, unfortunately, don't adapt very well. They go for one specific type of play. They want to achieve one very specific goal. But if the other team doesn't play into that, then it doesn't even matter if you go for that or not. It's a very specific counterplay kind of strategy. It doesn't have too much flexibility, and that's a problem.
So I probably should have refined my question there a little bit in regards to, is it the composition that's the issue, or how well they're obviously executing it? Which I think you've obviously summed up both parts of that.
It's both, but it's more so like you just want a flexible composition that can do a bit of everything, which is why when you see what Flash Wolves usually do, which is the 2-2-2, it doesn't specialize in anything in particular, but it does everything well across the board. So they're always prepared to be able to win in most situations, and they're never sort of on the back foot in any position either, because their composition just always does something generally quite well, even if it's not the super best. It just across the board is good.
And we saw what happened when they got caught on the back foot a little bit. A Graviton should have been all but a team wipe for SunSister, but Flash Wolves, they messed it up a little bit, didn't get the biotic grenade in there. That one little mess up just sent Adenkin on a rampage, right? He got his tactical visor, just went in murdering everyone, and in a shield-based composition, yeah, they can make a massive amount of blocking on the enemy team, like especially against attack visor, but they need to be in position. If if Adenkin's in a great position, then it doesn't matter where your shields are if they're not facing him.
Well, Flash Wolves have just picked Eichenwalde here, and I mean, we saw obviously, Amiken's Pharah being used to great effect on this when they took on SunSister on Eichenwalde prior to this. So obviously Flash Wolves took, maybe they took a little bit from that series, or they do just want to practice Eichenwalde themselves there. I feel like we're going to see a lot from Zonder's Pharah yet again coming into this.
And that's a treat as well, because Zonder's Pharah is now a little bit rare. He's just mainly a soldier player. Maybe brings out the Genji as his secondary pick, but the Pharah is almost never sort of comes out. So against these teams where they are more favored to win, gives Zonder a little bit more practice on the Pharah, gives a little bit more screen time for the Pharah as well. Just sort of check up on it. Is it still good? Is he hitting the shot still? How does that look? How does the team play around that? And still effective now, but I gotta say, it's nothing ever will be as effective as what Flash Wolves are currently doing in the games they're beating Blank, in the games they're beating HQ as well.
I mean, I obviously love to see that. We saw the Pharah come out obviously in week number 1, and they did look very strong with it, but once teams sort of have obviously worked it out and really do focus Zonda down, they do have, I think, quite a bit of an issue trying to get back into the fight when they are playing that Pharah composition, but he's just so consistent when he does bring that soldier to the fight. It's like he's obviously permanently playing with the ultimate up.
It can feel like that at times, but we may see Zonda's Pharah on attack, which, you know, would be a very nice thing for us to be able to see, but on defense, I'm just saying Flash Wolves, they're just going to go back to a bit standard, maybe experiment, flex their muscles a little bit by going triple DPS as well, but I don't expect to see Zonda off of Soldier on defense. Maybe he might flex the Genji, but apart from that, Flash Wolves should be pretty standard on defense.
Surely Junkrat, am I right?
Yeah, do you want to bet on it?
I don't want to bet on it, but I mean, would love to see the old the giggles for days coming out from the young Junkrat. Would make my day.
I don't think we're going to see it. I'm sorry, Easy. Sorry to break your heart there, but...
Do you feel lucky?
Look, Junkrat's not happening. Junkrat's not happening. We're just going to see pretty standard for SunSister because unless XQQ does something a bit funky, SunSister have been sticking a lot more standard, right? And even bringing XQQ into the equation, we're not seeing anything weird coming out from him lately. Like in the last week or two, he's been behaving himself, right? He's been on that Genji, he's been on that Soldier, and sometimes on that Widowmaker is probably the most out there pick.
Oh.
Speaking of out there picks, speaking of two out there picks.
With the Orisa, I was about to say, did you see that rogue Orisa shield as they were sort of moving into this map here? So, Orisa, Torbjorn, composition. I mean, what do you call this? Do you call this the?
Well, look, it's just a turret sitting behind.
What do you call it?
A turret sitting behind an Orisa shield is really the core of it, right? You have to get up close and deal with it, or break down the barrier from afar. It's going to depend on what XQQ does end up playing, of course, but. The team just sprinted back into the spawn. What's going on? They don't want to deal with it.
Oh, they're making the change here, so XQQ going onto the Genji instead of Moss.
And it's also going to be Illo on to Mercy as well. So yeah, okay, there's the swap ups that I was expecting to see. XQQ coming out onto the Pharah, that makes a lot more sense. Looking to find shots on the turret. Once that barrier does go down, it's only a few shots, and they do have Mollis as well for Soldier to eventually break that barrier down. It's going to be hard to do because, of course, Orisa can just put down another one almost immediately, but damage boosted up in the sky as well, but Illo dropping pretty low.
Zonda finding that first kill, so no support here for XQQ as he gets taken out by Zonda as well. Zonda looking at this aggressive positioning. This is like week one all over again, getting right up into the thick of things here. Bacon Jack as well in that great flanking position, and the rest of Flash Wolves just baiting in that attack from SunSister, and then the two DPS players just punishing it back to spawn.
Cool, and here's the problem as well. Realman's now just gone and collected a whole lot of scrap. He's going to armor up his team as well. This is going to make it a lot harder for SunSister to break through, who, by the way, have swapped their team composition up once more. Mollis is now on the Tracer. In fact, almost everyone has swapped, so any kind of ultimate charge is now gone for them. They can find picks at the start. That's good.
Nice there. XQQ hunting Realman down, chasing him through the corridor there. And now 8 HP needs to fall back here. Do not fall at this point. This is the best start you've had so far. Mollis finding that kill onto Jongi as well, but Zonda and Bacon Jack, the dynamic duo, saying absolutely no way, Jose, in this one, and just smash the rest of SunSister back yet again.
All right, and it's time to get your armor because he's still picking up all that scrap. That was a big team fight win for Flash Wolves as well. The scrap is going to be lying everywhere. SunSister, though, luckily for them, they haven't swapped any heroes once more. The thing about Orisa is that doesn't do so well against people that can jump all around her. Big hitbox shields are not even as flexible as Reinhardt's, have less health, so it is easier to get into position to do it. But Bacon Jack, also a pretty fantastic flanker.
As per usual, Bacon Jack right up in the back lines here, catching SunSister in this enclosed corridor yet again. Very good stuff again from Bacon Jack, and Zonda's tactical visor just going to work again, moderately uncontested, has that nano boost as well to work with. The rest of SunSister just going to be toppling over into this one, and I mean, Flash Wolves are just making it look easy.
And, oh my god, look at all that scrap. But in a bit of a turn the table situation, right, SunSister are getting very aggressive as soon as they get their first picks. But the problem is the first pick is always onto Realman, that Torbjorn, who, by the way, still has a turret up, still has a shield in front of it thanks to Jongi. And now, if you do that, if he respawns, he can throw out Molten Core as well. So now SunSister, finally, it's taken a few fights, but they're coming up to ultimates. Dragon Blade's got to go huge.
Indeed, it does. They will have that sound barrier. They're looking like they're trying to wait for it. They already lose Night Owl into this, and this is surely not not be the fight for them to commit anything to, and indeed, smartly, they do not. Need to fall back here now as well, not to give too much more charge away to the rest of the Flash Wolves side. They did manage to get themselves out the Torbjorn as well, so it's good. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, if you can ask for anything, that's one of the better ones because, of course, Zonda didn't have his ultimate up just yet anyway, and Anubis is pretty far away. This is now SunSister's best shot. Put a sound barrier onto XQQ so that he can survive, get that Dragon Blade out, and go for the guys you can actually kill.
The Pulse Bomb, absolutely disastrous now for SunSister, and they look like they had Bacon Jack caught out from the rest of his team there, and Bacon Jack single-handedly dealing with the damage of the SunSister side now. They're falling apart here. 10 seconds left on the clock. They need to reset and try for one last ditch effort onto this point. But Flash Wolves have just wiped them out completely. Look at this. There is one single Tracer just rushing to the point. Mollis is taken out before he can even get there. But it is the Dragon Blade from XQQ looking to keep things alive. Catches Zonda looking for Realman. Can't get him at all. And Flash Wolves just going to be picking apart now SunSister as they are staggering back onto the point. The Transcendent just to buy themselves a little bit more time. But with that Orisa ultimate as well, the rest of the Flash Wolves squad are just going to be doing multitudes and just so much damage all over SunSister.
Yeah, it's really just throwing bodies at the point right now. Flash Wolves hold very successfully, not even handing over 33% of the point, and that's one of the big advantages as well of their composition is that they can just sit on the point. So even if the enemy team, the attacking team, is being a little bit sneaky, trying to cap out a few percentages here and there before fights even start, that doesn't happen against this composition for Flash Wolves. They're already on the point. The turret's already there. I think SunSister just being too aggressive off what they think is a good pick, turning it into a 6v5. There's still a Torbjorn turret up, and it's not just a normal Torbjorn turret because it's behind that Orisa barrier. You can't just deal with it straight away.
Well, Flash Wolves obviously getting the whole hold here on Eichenwalde. Now it's going to be on SunSister to see if they can do the same. Obviously not going to go for a bit of a Torbjorn defense strategy themselves, I don't think. Trying to keep things obviously standard for their own composition. But
It's
Flash
really-
Wolves definitely have the tools and the toolkit to work with this.
It's really the best hope for SunSister to just go standard right now because anything a bit funky is just, it's a little bit too volatile and not even in a good way, right? Your best result from going from something weird is not even going to come close to what Flash Wolves can bring. Try and bring out what they did on Nepal, on the Sanctum, and then on Village as well. Those things actually work. Try and react to your enemy team. If Flash Wolves come out with something a bit weird, then you still have things that you can fall back on. XQQ, great McCree. You've also got Mollies who can flex over onto Roadhog. Flash Wolves are a team that have done a fair amount of dive, but I mean, right now it's hard to say what Flash Wolves are going to come out with. They could very much just come out triple tank into this. They could come out with Sombra onto the attack. We don't know right now because they are experimenting. They're seeing what can work.
And hopefully the Hanzo can work for them because that would make my day. Let's go with that one, Zonda, but instead it's going to be the Widowmaker. That's a nice little pick there coming through from them there. They're just going to be running the double tank on the offense here. Bacon Jack on that Zarya.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the skills of...
No, don't change.
Nah, nothing fun for you.
Oh, yes!
There you go.
Woo!
All right, he's actually full on stood up and did a fist pump for that as well. Hanzo is on attack for Flash Wolves. Their first offense is pushed away by SunSister because, of course, Flash Wolves, only 5 members committing to that while Zonda's swapping over to the Hanzo. But SunSister, they do have tools to go and find Zonda and his Hanzo, but that was one of them.
Zonda, huge right there. No fearing, taking out XQQ. You love to see it right here on Eichenwalde. And there goes the mech as well, being taken out there. Kane Momo on the Genji, showing us what he can do on the Ninja. Picking up the back line there of SunSister. And this is looking like Flash Wolves want to make extremely short work. And indeed they do. It's over before I even finish my sentence. Flash Wolves picking up Eichenwalde in spectacular speed.
Well, Easy, you got about 30 seconds of the Hanzo. Was that enough? Or would you like more?
I mean, XQQ probably was like, oh, I've got him now. And then gets the old smack to the face. I'm pretty happy with that.
Of course, that's always the risk when you're going into dive a Hanzo, right? Is the fact that scatter arrow is a thing. And while it can feel a bit painful to just get one shot by it, you've got to treat it almost like a flashbang, right? You've got to try and bait it out before you go in and dive in onto that Hanzo. And also remember that you're diving in alone. XQQ had no buddies to back him up.
You know, at least K-Momo gets to be the, I guess, you know, the flashy sort of Genji in this situation, so it's nice to see that coming through there.
Fun fact, Hanzo is actually Zonda's favorite hero. He said in an interview previously that he just thinks Hanzo's real, not because he thinks Hanzo's a good hero, but because he thinks it's a cool hero, like cool looking, cool designs,
Cool tattoos.
Sucks at the game, but you know, it's cool.
Hey man,
Maybe
Hanzo buff coming out.
Yeah, I was
maybe
about to
he'll
say,
get
maybe the buff is what all Hanzo players were looking for.
It's actually interesting because there's a legitimate argument for Hanzo on Eichenwalde first as well, because
Offense?
on offense on the first cap, because if you are going to use something like a Dragon Strike, it traveling through the entire building, that back building where the defenders usually hold out, where the soldier normally sits on the high ground as well, the entire Dragon Strike travels through it and just nullifies that entire building altogether. So legit strategy there, even at the choke, even if teams want to hold the choke, which teams don't usually do now, but if they wanted to do that, Dragon Strike again, very effective. So legitimate argument for that. Also Zonda's favorite hero, so doesn't surprise me they brought it out. I do, again, like the innovation coming out of Flash Wolves, willing to experiment with stuff like that, as well as the Orisa Torbjorn defense, which is starting to get a little bit more popular now.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of strength behind that. And I mean, Smite mentioned it as well. You know, they take out Realment there, and obviously you lose the Torbjorn, but the turret's still up, you know, and obviously Orisa not having to commit the body on top of the turret and just being able to drop the shield and obviously reposition as well. A very strong sort of composition if they can really hammer out, I guess, all the intricacies of it.
And speaking of hammer out, it's the difference between a Reinhardt just standing in front of your Torbjorn turret when you're in solo queue and Orisa just dropping the shield on. You hit it on the head with the hammer, right? Is that Orisa can move around, can still be effective in doing other things rather than just holding up that shield. Occasionally it goes down, you just throw down another one and just walk away. Suddenly you've got that great utility from the Holt ability. You've got your ironbound defense, right, when you push shift just to survive anything. And we even saw it come out on Sanctum as well, surviving through a pulse bomb. Things like that are something that teams can just abuse with Orisa right now. And I feel like it's also a little bit on SunSister for getting too aggressive when they find a kill. Every life in Overwatch is not worth the same thing, right? You kill a Torbjorn, he still has essentially half of his life alive.
But I mean, there was also like one thing that sort of springs to mind there is when they had Bacon Jack caught out in that closed room there, and Bacon Jack by himself, you know, takes out XQQ and Mollis on both of their DPS heroes, throwing the pulse bomb in there. I mean, they obviously don't have the coordination to split apart and not both get pulse bombed at the same time. They don't have the coordination and the communication to take them out together either. And so, I mean, that just showcases obviously the strength that, you know, this one player has on the side of Flash Wolves. And there's nothing obviously SunSister can really do to deal with this.
The only thing you can do against that is tracking the Tracer. Where is he? And that can be a very difficult ask, right? When Tracer can travel 3 blinks worth of distance to get up to you, throw the pulse bomb, and then just recall away, right? You have to know exactly where Tracer is, exactly how many blinks he's got left on cooldown, and that, again, it's such a monumental task to ask players to do that Bacon Jack is someone that can just abuse the fact that not everyone is going to know where he is all of the time, and he can just go up there, find situations like that, and Pulse Bomb, like you said, that was also XQQ who had Dragon Blade. I think he was actually pulling it out. Luckily, it didn't go on cooldown, but it nullified that from that fight as well.
I mean, that's just the story of XQQ when he plays Genji, isn't it?
A little bit.
Half out Dragon Blades the entire time, I feel. But I mean, and this is a sort of conversation about the Flash Wolves side here. You know, going forward into the tournament, do they have what it takes to sort of play, you know, a mirror composition to the likes of AHQ? And I mean, obviously they've recently beaten Blank as well. Will they have to bust out a sort of surprise strategy to be able to take out either of these other top teams, or can they sort of take these mirror matchups with the other sort of top teams around?
They don't need any surprises. The other teams need surprises against them. Right now, the onus is on every team trying to catch up and to bring something against Flash Wolves. Flash Wolves are sitting on the throne. They're happy in the #1 spot. They're now very close to officially taking that #1 spot after they beat SunSister, and it's going to be on every other team to try and take it off Flash Wolves. So Flash Wolves, they can keep doing what they're doing. They're not even showing their hand right now. They're not even showing what they're actually going to bring out against AHQ and Blank, which I suspect is just going to be exactly or very close to what they've been bringing out against those two teams specifically in the past. Anyway, standard 2-2-2, very flexible, very safe specifically for Zonda as well, and extremely well executed and powerful in the hands of Flash Wolves.
And if you are trying to take down the Flash Wolves side, I mean, do you try to take out, because obviously, you know, in certain compositions, you know, you want to take out specific heroes. You know, if there's a soldier, sometimes, you know, quite an easy hero to sort of deal with. When you come up against the side of Flash Wolves, do you try to take out Zondra or Bacon Jack first, or do you sort of take out the supports? What's the sort of go, do you feel?
The thing with Bacon Jack, because he's always on Tracer, right, is that, yeah, it's great if you can take him out first, but it's only when the opportunity is really there for you to take. Zondra is always there, you always know where he's going to be, you always have that plan, a path to get to him, so that should be your goal because it's consistently there. With Bacon Jack, he'll be in your backline, and you can only take him out when the opportunity presents itself. If he's a little bit close for a flashbang, if you can hit a Helix rocket on him, if you can get Genji to turn around and swift strike him, like those are the opportunities that you need to take, and they're not always there. So your priority should of course be on Zondra, on that soldier, but if Bacon Jack ever gives you a chance to kill him, of course, turn around and do that first.
Well, Flash Wolves in spectacular fashion, really dealing to SunSister in this best of 3. We're going to go to a quick 10-minute break, and when we get back, it's going to be game number 3, SunSister taking on Flash Wolves. Welcome back to the Overwatch Pacific Championship. I'm Dallas Easy Fight today. Joining me here, Matt Smite Ross and Kevin Abril Walker, and we're currently watching SunSister take on Flash Wolves. It has just been SunSister picking Temple of Anubis. We've just seen them again play Detonator Gold on this map. They do have a few strengths and a few tricks up their sleeves when it comes to Temple of Anubis, but facing Flash Wolves is definitely a tough road ahead of them.
There's also the evidence as well of Flash Wolves will have been watching SunSister play on Temple of Anubis, not just in the previous match, but in yesterday's matches as well, up against Fireball too. So they're very clearly aware of what SunSister can bring out on the attack on Temple of Anubis, also what they can bring out on defense. We just saw them bring out a Widowmaker Mercy combo on defense on first point, and it did not work too well for them. So Flash Wolves, I don't think they have to be too worried about it, but the important thing is they know that that's something that SunSister are prepared to bring out.
But I mean, one thing there as well is, you know, XQQ, when he's on, he's on. And so, I mean, if he comes up and lands those shots, you know, Flash Wolves might be in for a world of hurt and a bit of a surprise as they walk through the gates there.
But, like, I mean, he was kind of half on last.
It took him about, like, a good 30 to 45 seconds to even get, like, that first sneaky little kill onto the soldier.
But even when they got that switch from that, like, halfway on-off position and then fully turned it on, and he got that one headshot onto Saihate, cool, that's a 6v5. SunSister as a team were too slow to engage. They didn't go in. And
that was on the offense as well. So what am I even talking about?
That was offense too. I mean, I don't think he got any kills on defense, to be honest.
Yeah,
He got nothing on defense.
Yeah, the defense was actually even worse.
So yeah, he can switch on. He can get a cool headshot like that, but it doesn't mean anything if his team doesn't capitalize on it.
Wait, was this the one where you were like, cool?
Cool.
Well, I was like, cool.
It is a real problem when you have to sort of think like, we need XQQ to switch on here. Is he going to be switched on or not? Because let's face the facts, Flash Wolves are just always switched on. They enter switched on. They're just always on. That button is in there, and they never look like they're off, right? So that's an issue. If you have to already be asking, look, we're only going to have a chance if we're even on in the first place. Well, I mean, the team you're fighting, they're just on.
Exactly, and you know the biggest problem as well is that highlighted what you said. Even when they are on, even when they are playing it to the top of their ability, it doesn't even seem to pale in comparison to what Flash Wolves can bring. Remember back in Nepal, the very first map when it felt like Flash Wolves were playing their more serious, their more standard composition was just a complete shutout. SunSister had no hope of coming into that. They were just constantly getting out-fragged. Ultimates didn't even come into play until the very last fight.
Well, I mean, one thing to sort of look forward to again, we got to see our man Zonda bust out the Hanzo and Eichenwalde here. So coming into Anubis, this is definitely where they can bring out some of those sort of strange picks yet again and obviously make it work out for them.
They did do it. I can't remember what team it was. It was during the last round robin. I think it was against Fireball or someone, but Flash Wolves did pull out something weird on the attack involving a Reaper and I think a Mercy as well. Definitely not something that they'd bring out against these other top 3 teams, so we could see a repeat of that here up against SunSister. Remember, these teams are as far apart as you can get in this entire series right now, with Flash Wolves being at the top of the table and SunSister right at the bottom. XQQ, yeah, sure, you can find those headshots, but doesn't matter. But we'll talk about the defense first. SunSister, they are just running the most standard 2-2-2 dive that they possibly can, perhaps expecting a Widowmaker to come out from Flash Wolves so that they have the tools to deal with it. And There is a Widowmaker there, but it's likely to be just for scouting purposes. But with the Mercy there, actually, I'm actually calling no. No, they're running this composition.
Well, it's going to be K Momo bringing out the Widowmaker, seeing what he can bring to the party here. Zonda getting right up in the thick of things already, almost dropping down the Tracer to half HP here, and that's big. Oh my goodness, Zetman getting caught way out of position there, already lost into this fight. XQQ does take out Realman on the Mercy there, but Flashballs won't be too bothered there, still have a little bit of support, and obviously the self-sustain from a lot of these players, so very, very good. K-Momo picking out Odinkun as well there. XQQ all over him, but yet again, his support of his own is getting taken out, but Zonda getting a little bit too aggressive, pays with his life there.
It's mostly even trades, but as the attacking team, you've got a much closer respawn. Credit to XQQ though, who has been consistently on the tail of Realman here, killing that Mercy the first time, and that's very likely when he's attached to K-Momo. K-Momo is not able to defend him, but this time that's not the case.
K-Momo says no to XQQ's life right there, sends him right back to the spawn here. Now Flashball's looking very strong on their offense, having that definite player advantages. SunSister still trying to work their way back to the point, and now they do clean up the final members here. The cap ticking very quickly. It looks like we will be moving on to cap number 2 unless SunSister can Usain Bolt with great haste back to point number 1.
The only real hope for SunSister moving into the second point is that Flashballs are running Widowmaker. They don't have humongous snowball potential, but maybe they do because they're running triple DPS, so they might not have a self-destruct, but they are close to Dragon Blade anyway. K-Momo will have Infrasight, which can even add into your Dragon Blade, right? You can just track the targets, find out where they're going, and it just helps Zonda that little bit extra to get those kills.
And look at this, they've almost got the full stack of ultimates coming through, but XQQ, that's the answer they were looking for there. Picking that kill up onto Zonda, has the Dragon Blade of his own to work with. So things looking quite good now for the side of SunSister to stabilize off the back of this, but Zonda already back into the thick of things with the Dragon Blade of his own. Cinco as well picked up Zetman there. Bacon Jack finding his counterpart Mollis on the Tracer. So Flashball's now wiping out SunSister players left, right, and center, and still have a few ultimates to work with as well.
Denkin flying away as well to try and survive off the point, just lost so much progress on it.
Well, the Nano Blade now coming out from XQQ, comes up big with the triple, looking for a fourth here. Can he manage to find it? Indeed he can, taking out Jongi. XQQ with a spectacular play here. K-Momo, no one left alive. And SunSister now stabilizing that piece of defense. XQQ, why are you doing this to me?
Okay, no. Look, at least it's playing into the Sombra. They couldn't bring it out immediately because they knew that Flashball was going to be rushing onto the point. Now that they've got time to breathe, they can bring it out. They're also running Night Owl on the Tracer as well, so that means that they're not lacking in as much damage as they normally do, so they're actually going to be okay. Remember, XQQ, aggressive Sombra player, always positioning forward, getting that EMP charged up ASAP, as soon as possible. Bacon Jack returns to the Reaper, does also find, hey, it's a health pack that's been hacked by his own Zonda on Sombra.
Bacon Jack back on the attack now with the young Reaper, really excited to see what he can bring here. It's actually the Sombra v Sombra that is a very interesting thing to see here, who's going to drop the EMP base first. It is going to be XQQ getting his ultimate up, but the thing is obviously if this didn't work against Fireball, didn't really work against SunSister. Oh, and there we go. It's going to be XQQ right up there, dropping the EMP. They pick the kills up this time. Already vast improvements here on their second point defense compared to them playing against SunSister. And this is against Flashballs, currently one of the best teams in the tournament.
And the big thing though as well is that SunSister only committed the EMP, but in the last moments of this fight though, they overextend, they've lost a few members. Luckily they do respawn a lot closer, but it could be the window that Flashballs are going to exploit.
And now there's Zonda's EMP. Doesn't really connect me too much, but it will just be enough here as he's trying to get this health back for his own.
Oh, that's big.
All over him there. So now giving themselves that ever-needed player advantage. The sound barrier as well from SunSister to chase these few Flashball players out of the second cap.
That is a full minute that big health pack under the bridge is now not going to be hacked for XQQ. Hey, look, he's got his EMP anyway, and there are other health packs to utilize, but the one under the bridge is pretty big, especially for the defenders to be able to jump down there, survive, jump back up, and contest the point, especially when it's hacked, respawning a whole lot quicker. SunSister, though, macro-wise, they have survived through a lot of fights using minimal ultimates too. Flash Wolves, they tried using the EMP. There's an EMP coming out from the defense though.
And here's Mollis's Dragon Blade. He needs to come up big with this. Flash Wolves trying to retreat out of the gate here. And it looks like Night Owl's going to be able to pick up Bacon Jack around the backside. But that retreat from Flash Wolves, very smart play. Night Owl picks himself up a second, gets his Pulse Bomb ready to rumble as well.
Flash Wolves too have been saving up a few ultimates of their own. Going EMP into the Death Blossom as well can be very dangerous. Remember, you're shutting down all the mobility abilities for SunSister, but critically, that defense matrix. If you can hit a Denkin with the EMP, then there's nothing that's going to eat up the Death Blossom, and then Bacon Jack can go huge. The only thing that can really stop it is another EMP coming out from XQQ.
While he's only on 30%, will be some time away from getting this up. The 6 ultimates ready now on the side of Flash Wolves. This is surely going to have to be the Death Bush. Nice self-destruct coming through there. Realman trying to hide. Does indeed keep himself alive. There's the EMP into Death Blossom, and it's a big one with the self-destruct following up as well. The Nano Boost all over Bacon Jack, looking to lay down some hot fire on this track, cleaning up the rest of SunSister here. And that's going to be that. Flash Wolves getting that second cap with, I believe, 2 minutes 30 left in the bank there.
A Denkin wasn't even hit by that EMP. He could have been in position to eat all of that Death Blossom, but was just harassed out of the backline. And also, it's good on Flash Wolves to notice that he wasn't in position to get there in time to block that team-winning, game-winning ultimate there coming out. A bit of a flashback coming out from Nano Boost Death Blossom, right? A few seasons ago, that was a big thing, but right there, Flash Wolves can still seem to get a lot of value out of it.
That was flashy by Flash Wolves, I'm not going to lie. I really enjoyed watching them do that there. There's great execution, but as you mentioned though, Odinkun could have really saved the day there for the SunSister side, and that's just sort of, you know, one of the things. He managed to obviously eat one earlier this evening on Nepal, but just not really enough there as Flash Wolves, you know, really do clean up that second cap, but a lot slower than I expected.
SunSister did fight back, and I did really enjoy watching that too, but if we want to see interesting things out of Flash Wolves, here it is. We're likely to see another Orisa on defense this time, and Torbjorn too. Similar strategy to what we saw on Eichenwalde. And remember, we only saw the assault part of Eichenwalde. Nothing, I don't even know if that thing exists there anymore, but this is just going to feel like that first point again, except this time the difference is that there is a bigger run back for the defenders here, and that means any kill will actually matter a fair amount in an extended fight. But SunSister need to learn from the previous Eichenwalde map. When killing Torbjorn doesn't just take him out of the fight entirely, he still has a turret. He still is affecting the fight.
Well, I mean, that placement there as well, so if they do opt to go with the Pharah to sort of counter that out, it's quite a hard position to sort of deal with. But it looks like they're going to be going with the classic FQQ on the Widowmaker there. Mollis obviously not going to be playing the Hanzo unless this is the craziest Anubis I've ever seen.
It's not going to come out. Sorry, easy to break your heart a little bit there. There he goes back into the spawn room to swap. But SunSister, maybe even expect them to rush back to the spawn as soon as they work out what's going on, because it's what they did on Eichenwalde. But no, they're confident that this team composition can work, and XQQ, he can find positions to find headshots with Widowmaker. Remember, Orisa, not the most mobile of heroes, even at defending. Yeah, you can throw out those barriers, but in this composition, you're pretty locked into leaving the barrier in front of the turret. That's the way you want to get the value. There's the kill onto Realman. Now, this isn't a guaranteed win, but it's a good advantage that they can utilize to command the positioning with.
But look at the patience from Zonda, still hiding up in that high ground. Now he's peeked out, now he's wanting to join this battle, and he's doing a decent amount of damage there. Almost takes out XQQ up in the back, but XQQ does escape with his life as Bacon Jack will take out Night Owl, as the rest of SunSister pushing in without the assistance of XQQ's damage up on those back lines there. This fight's surely not going to work out for them.
And can you imagine as well if that fight had just gone a few seconds later? That was when XQQ got the shot onto Zonda. That would have been a completely different story, but still, in the end, it didn't matter. Flash Wolves did take up a fight win. They're able to get Realman back in, put that turret up, and that's a tricky one to break through as well, putting the barrier there too. You can't even get too much long-range damage on the turret even once the barrier is down.
Well, Zonda switching over to the Genji of himself. Night Owl taking down Zhongi early into this one, and now that pressure right onto XQQ, getting decent shots there onto Zonda. Will actually take him out as he has a little bit of support there from Odinkun, picking themselves up a triple now. Does have the ultimate to work with as well, so they can catch the positions out of the Flash Wolves side. They will walk in now.
but Flash Wolves, a lot of them did die during that fight. They are now running back. Orisa's one of the slowest heroes in the game. No movement abilities to get back to the point in time. So SunSister, they've regrouped, they've respawned, they've got a small window to go in, deal with that turret, and then take out a fight win here.
And Bacon Jack all over XQQ. He's not going to be long for this fight, as now the rest of the Flash Wolves players have made their way back to the point. Mick gone as well, Night Owl as well. And the moment of opportunity that SunSister had, they've pretty much squandered it now as Flash Wolves are back in action.
It was too small a window for them to get into. SunSister, they've only got a minute 30 to go. They are coming up to the Dragon Blade, and that can be enough, especially with XQQ up on the back lines. If you can find one of those kills, seeing someone up there. But of course, remember that they can hear the voice line. They know Infraside's active. Surely he's not going to peek out for the target. But hey, look, a pulse bomb. Ooh, that was close.
That was close, but the pistols will finish this one off as the SunSister players are just killing just the equipment now of the Flash Wolves side. Jongi actually taken out. The Transcendence coming through being used there. Mollis is only switched over to the Genji just now here, so not really sure if he's going to get too much work done here as the nano boosted Zonda already starting to open things up, still holding onto this Dragon Blade here. Now, self-destruct, just going to be taking out the turret. Still not found enough with this one as the Flash Wolf side just picking SunSister apart. But as I say that, XQQ back in action again. Right in the back lines, doesn't have that pressure from Bacon Jack as he takes him out. Huge shot there onto Zonda as well. This could be what SunSister were looking for. Jongi's made it back to the point, but doesn't have much in the way of support around him.
This is their moment to go, and like I said before, the long respawn now gives SunSister a window to go in. They can break the turret, they can break the Orisa. It's not going to take too long. Flash Wolves may very well rush back onto the point, but if no one's there to contest XQQ, then he will just get his free headshots on you on the point, and they may buy time, but Flash Wolves surely want to get the point back here.
Oh my goodness, XQQ taking Bacon Jack out before he can even touch the point there. The Dragon Blade being committed now from Zonda on top, and only found that one kill here. So this is really good stuff now coming up from SunSister as they get the first cap. 4 minutes now to work with onto point 2. The ultimates, though, on the side of Flash was definitely working out in their favor.
Now swapping back over to that Sombra composition, but Realman is still sticking onto the Torbjorn. No Orisa to protect him, and in fact, that is currently a zero healer composition for Flash Wolves, so really relying on the Molten Core and then also the hacked turrets.
That's going to be disastrous. Just throw the Pulse Bomb out, take out the 2 supports. Who needs healers when you take out the healers on the opposing team?
Yeah, so I mean, it does feel like a bit of a situation where he's saying, oh look, I've got Molten Core, I kind of want to use it, but also Sinclair with his health packs should be enough for them to actually heal just enough to survive as well. And it's still a lot of damage that they're bringing out too. That's for essentially DPS. Torbjorn and Sombra, not so much as someone like Tracer and Genji, but they still bring a fair amount of damage. SunSister swapping their composition up as well is playing into that as well. You got 4 squishy targets, perfect targets for XQQ to headshot.
Well, Flash Wolves are going to be throwing out the EMP in that enclosed room there. Need to get this fight out and about, and indeed picking up a triple very quickly into this. Zetman going to have no one around him. Oh, XQQ finding the headshot, picking themselves up a few consolation kills. It's always nice to pat yourself on the back when you land those ones, but not winning the fight. Still nothing SunSister can find there. 2 minutes 45 left on the clock, just trying to charge up these ultimates.
Yeah, consolation kill, but it does also get him the ultimate charge too. He's 50% of the way towards Deadeye, which is going to be nice. SunSister really want that Graviton Surge though, and only 20% charged. They've got a long way to go. They want to combo it up with the Dragon Blade, but I feel as though they don't have time. They can use Mollis' Dragon Blade now, and hopefully for them, they'll have it back up by the time Graviton is ready to go. EMP is already up for Flash Wolves once again. If SunSister getting command here though, without healers, it's going to be hard for Flash Wolves to sustain in the flood.
Ready to rumble yet again. Watch out, there's the EMP coming through as Zonda hits the Dragon Blade, and SunSister are just getting huffed and puffed and blown over all over the place as they try to get any of these attacks. Nothing's working.
And also, with there being no other healer, everyone has to be taking those health packs. They don't have a choice. They have to go up and charge Sinclair's ultimate. So that's why we're seeing EMP almost every single fight right now. Sinclair is also going to be quite aggressive, try and take damage onto himself, go back and charge up his own ultimate. You're walking into Molten Core right now, and when you're also walking into a Pulse Bomb.
Bacon Jack, he's done it again.
Ah, boy. All right, well, SunSister, it is just going to mean they have to take a little bit of time to regroup, but that time is not what they have because Flash Wolves just want that EMP up. That's all they need. They won't be able to combo it up with another Dragon Blade with Zonda, which SunSister will be okay with, but I feel like they've got to bait out an EMP, but or just put him to sleep.
Oh, that would have been huge if he didn't manage to translocate back in time. And still these 3 ultimates there on the side of Flash Wolves. They will have that EMP, and if SunSister do the predictable push around the side, even though they have all these ultimates up to work with, that could just be the that could just be the nail on the coffin there.
Which way are you gonna go?
Please don't go the same way.
Problem is, I think they need to go all on separate sides, just like this. The EMP can't hit everyone.
Well, it does get thrown out there. Dragon Blade coming through from Mollis does not find enough at all. And Realman with the Molten Core there as well, just wiping it up. Look at that turret just going to work. And he has made absolute dividends off the back of that.
And that was an Earth Shatter committed as well, so SunSister in desperation, 30 seconds to go, swapping Mollis over onto that Roadhog. They need to find just a hook to get a kill, to start it off with. They need to find these random, not random, but picks. They need to find anything because ultimates are not going to be on the table. They need to start winning the fight so then they can get Graviton in the middle of it. And Deadeye, if we can find anything, that's fantastic.
It's gonna get one there, but Mollis will actually pick the kill up, so... Oh, the flashbang lands on Zonda! This is now it for SunSister. The sound barrier coming through. Odinkun's got his Graviton Surge up. If they can time this well, they could all but get this cap here, and it gets thrown out just a little bit too early, I feel. Doesn't connect with enough of these players. Bacon Jack's Pulse Bomb being thrown out as well to hit nothing, but the rest of the players easily now cleaning up these split up SunSister players yet again. Zonda with the blade, overtime ticking down, and that's going to be that. Flash Wolves pick up Anubis and the series 3-0.
And what spectacular fashion as well, giving the fans a show too. It's as the home team, not necessarily the home day, but they have the home crowd advantage being that Taiwanese team. The crowd definitely cheering them on, and you've got to imagine what the crowd is feeling when they're seeing all these cool compositions coming out. Look at that. Well, okay, it ended up looking a little more standard near the end.
It's so Torbjorn. It's so Torbjorn.
But the fact that they held on to this till the end, until the desperation moments where, okay, look, we need a healer just to survive the onslaught, but when you're running so many flankers into a Torbjorn Molten Core, and then you get EMP'd, so you can't even block it, of course you're going to give the Torbjorn play of the game.
Beautiful stuff there. I mean, I really enjoyed that composition coming out from them on point number 2.
It's crazy when you're the home team, even when you're not the home team. Based on what you said, though. I mean, but it's kind of true.
There's 2 different home teams.
Yeah.
That's
That's the thing. It's crazy that you are the home team, even when you're not the home team.
It's not fair.
But I mean, how do you feel about that composition that they sort of ran on point number 2? Do you see them using that?
Yeah,
going
super
into the
risky,
future?
super risky, and no, I don't, because you don't want to be put in a situation where you don't have any actual healing. You can't depend on health packs. If the positioning is lost, you will never get access to health packs again. And also, you know, a very limited amount of armor that can get given out as well. And again, it's not even instant heal. You can't just immediately get a Harmony Orb. You can't just immediately, you know, have Anna shoot a dart at you with, you know, pretty decent accuracy. It's very difficult to get that healing out. So kind of a risky composition. They made it work because they had the Molten Core they wanted to hold on to. They know they wanted to run the Sombra no matter what. So okay, cool, they did that, and then immediately Brilliant changes onto Zenyatta, which is the correct move.
It did take them a few fights to throw out the Molten Core, though, that they were still holding on with Torbjorn as part of their composition. So the fact is, I feel like SunSister couldn't find the flaw in Flash Wolves' defense, which was that once Flash Wolves were jostled off their position, off any kind of defensive mode, then suddenly they're at risk because, like you said, there's so much healing that they can't get. It's all very, very conditional. You've got to find a health pack, or Torbjorn has to lob a grenade of armor at you, and that's not the most limited. Yeah, it's limited. It's not the most accurate thing, and it's not even instant either. So it's nothing you can rely on for survivability. So in terms of finding eventual picks, you can get that. You can pick people down, but SunSister weren't able to find that.
Yeah, look, SunSister could have. They had all the options to be able to. Everything Flash Wolves did tonight, all the quirky stuff they did, has a counter. Like, and SunSister, it's not even like a compositional counter, it's a playstyle counter. So you go up against a Torbjorn and a Sombra, and by the way, this is good experimentation out of Flash Wolves. It's like, how long can we actually hold on to this composition and make it work? Turns out a pretty long time, but for SunSister, look, if you just played for poke, you played long range, you played for damage, all that damage is pretty much permanent because they can't heal it up successfully. So you play for the long range game and you eventually just whittle them down. Take positioning on the health packs and just force them off their point.
Well, we see Flash Wolves now solidifying their first place position. sitting just ahead of AHQ Esports now, 16-3. Obviously going to be a one game ahead by the end of tonight. Flash Wolves will have a second game taking on Fireball, looking to pick themselves up an even further lead there, and AHQ will be indeed playing Fireball after that one, hot on the trail of Flash Wolves. And I mean, speaking of picks off the back of that there, how would you rate XQQ's Widowmaker overall in regards to the tournament? Because to me, you know, it looks like he's definitely one of, I guess, the better aimers around when it comes to Widowmaker play.
His raw aim is not bad, but let's be honest, it's still not really on the level of, I'd say Europe is probably the best Widow in the tournament so far. I'd say XQQ is good, but it feels very conditional as well. Like, unfortunately, the way his team sort of operates, they're not really pulling on the full potential Widowmaker, and I still think on top of that, the moments where XQQ really goes off are still a little bit too far and few in between.
The way XQQ plays Widowmaker is that he waits for people to come out of cover and get those headshots, rather than the other way around, where your team pushes them out, flushes them out, and then suddenly you might not.
That's more of a team thing.
Yeah, it's a team thing, right? But the way he plays doesn't fit with the way SunSister are trying to play as well. They're trying to flush them out half the time, and then even when he does get the pick, they don't go in off of it. They don't seem to synergize in those two play styles.
He's playing exactly how SunSister play, which is they're waiting for him to get a pick, and even if they do get a pick, they're not super able to be able to really convert that into anything anyway. So they're absolutely not playing Widowmaker to its potential. And even with his aim, it's like, it's good aim, but it's not anything spectacularly outstanding, unfortunately.
So, I mean, I feel there's like just this little bit of hesitancy when it comes to SunSister's play. Like, it looks like, you know, they have the tools required. Jongi actually picking up the play of the game on the Orisa there, so that's
it's a unique one.
Probably the only time you'll see it the whole tournament.
There's going to be a few complaints from his team though, because they always say Jongi always gets the MVP, and he does. He gets it a lot of the time.
But I mean, what I'm sort of saying there is that if they could maybe, I guess, I'm just gonna say man up a little bit, you know, and work on when they get that little bit of the advantage, have a little bit of no fear, you know, push their way in and sort of brute force like a lot of these other teams, you know, Firewall, you know, even though they're sort of down the list in overall rankings, you know, they are quite an aggressive team. When they get themselves an advantage or a pick, they know that that's their time to go. Sometimes they pay for their over-aggression, Flash Wolves, you know, being another one of those teams as well. But SunSister, when they get that their moments to move in, they just never capitalize on them. And if they were to be able to sort of notice that as one of their big glaring weaknesses, would they be able to sort of pick up a win, do you feel?
I think it's not necessarily that they never go in when they get a pick, because they do. We saw them do it on Eichenwalde. As soon as they pick off Realman on that Torbjorn, in they go, but they still ended up losing team fights. I think it's more
But that's not the right pick.
Exactly. It's more they're not identifying the times that they can go aggressive. You get a pick onto Zonda with XQQ's Widowmaker, that's a great time to go in, right? You can just rush in, there's no soldier on the defense, you've got a numbers advantage, you can force enemies onto the point. That's fine, that's the time to go in. You kill a Torbjorn who still has a turret up behind an Orisa shield, and he'll have Molten Core up when he respawns 12 seconds later. That's still an advantage, don't get me wrong, but it's not an advantage where you can just drop all pretenses of protecting yourself and rushing in.
And I think the sort of other thing to talk about, because, you know, they are going to be taking on Fireball next. They haven't really obviously given away any of their strategies, you know. We're really not going to get to see them use any of those strategies, I think, again, coming up against a Fireball. Do you think Fireball are on that level where Flash Wolves will have to sort of fall into that same routine, you know, use some of their, I guess, stronger strategies?
Fireball are going to be able to push Flash Wolves a bit further, but Flash Wolves will still be doing a bit more experimentation tonight. It'll just be a little bit riskier, and more likely than not, Flash Wolves will be pulling themselves back and, you know, putting out something more comfortable sooner rather than later. So, you know, for example, if we're back on Anubis, they're not going to stick onto Torbjorn and Sombra for a long time. They're going to immediately go, okay, this is too risky. We're just going to bring out the Zenyatta or a Lucio or an Ana or whatever much quicker.
That said, though, and you said this before at the start of the SunSister series, is that even if they do drop a map, that doesn't actually affect the points. It's not going to matter as long as they get the 3 wins tonight. So yeah, they can still go for these risky strategies if they need to. And when if they drop a single map against Fireball because of that, then they can say, okay, guys, it's time to get real. Like, let's actually use everything we've got and just blow Fireball out of the water. So they always will have that in their back pocket instead of just trying to hide information and experiment a little bit.
The way Flash Wolves are playing is they're still going for 3-0. Like their goal is to still 3-0, and it's very evident because they're never pushing themselves so far that they actually risk losing. I mean, the couple of risky moments on Nepal, but that was even just for individual points. But they weren't even content with giving away the individual stages. They had to 3-0 Nepal as well. So I mean, this is a team where they're willing to experiment up until the stage where they're about to lose something and they don't want to lose anything.
So I've just seen SunSister play their 2 home games back to back. First up against Detonator Gold, dropping that one 3-0, and then coming up against the big dogs, Flash Wolves, dropping that on top 3-0 also. We're going to go to a dinner break, so go and get your sustenance, get your food and beverage in you. When we return, we're going to have Fireball taking on Flash Wolves, and that's going to be a big one.
OK， 那想要问第一个问题就是，SunSister怎么安排他们一整天的一个训练计划
So the first question is, how do you plan your training routines and how do you train?
So our training routine, it actually changed pretty recently, but like for the most of the time we were here, it was Mondays off, well, after tournament is off, and every day else we wake up around 12 and start practice at 1, practice until 5, then have about 3-hour break. Then from 8 o'clock to midnight we do practice again. So that was just, we did that for I guess 2 months. But recently we decided that, well, we're obviously not winning any games, so and we were all getting really tired and really stressed, so we decided to cut down. So right now we only have evening practice, and we took away the afternoon practice for now to see how that works out. Yeah, about.
Okay, thank you. 所以他们现在是打完赛的隔天，通常在礼拜一打完赛的隔天会先休息1天，然后呢就会在隔天起来12点差不多起来，然后呢就一路练习到5点。然后休息几个小时，然后从8点一路练习到12点，这是他们之前是这样做。但是最近这几周，因为他们就觉得说，我们都已经来台湾了，所以呢，我们就大家都有点累，所以就是说，好，没关系，虽然成绩不是很好，但是我们就是好好的享受这个游戏。所以呢，早上还有中午的时间，我们就先休息，然后我们晚上还是努力练习。
是，那当然也要问一下 Morris 这边有一个问题，就是因为我们都知道他好像有一个女儿。那以后会想要跟女儿一起玩游戏嘛？然后再一个问题就是说，因为他已经结婚了，那老婆也是打 game 吗？还是不打 game？
So next question is towards Morris. So we know that you have a daughter who's 5 months old. So will you play Overwatch or games with your daughter when she grows up? Yeah, and we know you have family, so you have wife. So do you play games with your wife, or just share your little family life with us? Thank you.
最近生まれた子供がいると聞いたんで、今5ヶ月ぐらいでしたっけなんですけど、まだもちろん今できないですけど、将来、ゲームができるだったら一緒におばあちゃんやったりゲームやったりしますかっていうのと、あと今そのお嫁さんの方とかとは一緒にゲームとかしたりするんですか？他の家族の方とかとは。
まず一つ目、将来子供とゲームできたらしたいですね。切られないうちにさっさと一緒にゲームがしたいっていうのが本望です。2つ目、嫁さんとゲームやります。結構やります。だけど、これ他のゲームタイトル出していいのとかあるから、RPG だったりとか、そういう系、あとはネット対戦だったりとかやってますし、ただゲームだとやっぱ嫁さんとも喧嘩しちゃう。なるほど。熱くなっちゃう。って感じですね。
はい、わかりました。はい。Okay, so when his daughter grows up, he would like to play with her before she hits her teens, and won't talk to him anymore.
Wow.
And with his wife, he plays a lot of games. Like he plays MMORPGs, plays just regular competitive games, but because he's a very competitive person and she is too, like sometimes they fight over it. So they try to not do it as much.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
For the relationships.
Yes,
I
yeah.
see. Thank you. 所以呢，他Morris 选手是说，对他其实还蛮希望跟女儿可以有很多的游戏时间，直到大概女儿到青春期的时候，然后就不跟他讲话。之前他是希望好好的可以陪陪他女儿然后玩游戏的。那老婆这方面，他的确常常跟他老婆玩游戏，然后大部分玩的是 MMORPG，就是角色扮演。那但是他是一个非常就是想要喜欢赢的人，那他老婆也是好胜心非常的强，所以呢，他们每次玩的时候呢都会吵架。然后都吵得还蛮大的，所以最近就开始减少这个玩游戏的次数了。
哇，这个非常有趣的一个经验哦。那么也想要多认识一下莫里斯，就是因为像 Detonate 的一个队员叫做尤西哈鲁，他有提到说他过去的职业是像渔夫，那也想要了解一下莫里斯是过去一直是从事电竞这方面的工作吗？还是之前有别的工作？然后他是怎么踏入电竞的？
So, another question toward Morris. So, what were you doing before you were a programmer, or were you have other occupations, or you just been playing this as a programmer ever since after you graduated and then you start your pro life? So, and share your story if you have anything more you want to tell us, and we would like to share the story to the fans.
プロゲーマーになる前って何をしてたんですかとか、まあそのまあ例えば自分は社会人やってたりとか、だからすぐ学生卒業してもう速攻プロゲームに入ったのか、その前に仕事をしてたのかとか、でなんかそのここに来るまでのストーリーって何かあったらその伝えてほしいですみたいな。
ここに来る前はそうですね、まあ、仕事をして、一度落ち着いてゲーム漬けになって、一度病気で体を壊しちゃってて1年半ぐらいで今度だったんですけど、その間ずーっともう一日中ゲーム、もう24時間起きてるの当たり前みたいな感じで、まあ、ずっとゲームやってて、プロゲーマーになる前は本当それをずっと繰り返してて、で今の嫁さんなんですけど、まあ、嫁さんからもうすごいねって、寝ないのって家の電気が一日つきっぱなしみたいな感じですね。もうそれがもう年がら年中1年通してあったって感じでしたね。あと僕家にもともとパソコンの環境なかったんで、ずっとネカフェに通ってる時期がありましたね、でそこでもう延々とずっともう一つのゲームをずっとやってみたいな、リクライニングチェアで寝ちゃってみたいな感じで、もうすごいゲーム好きでした。まあ今それがあったから今があるのかなって感じもしますね。
So he used to be working, but he got really sick for about a year, so he wasn't able to do anything else. So that's when he started really gaming hard. So like he gamed for like he couldn't move out of his bed or something for a year. So he just gamed for a long time, and like after that he really became like into gaming, and then like he just plays like 24/7, and his wife was just barely like, "Are you okay? Like the lights are on like 24/7. Like do you even sleep?" And like now he does, but like he used to not have a computer at his house, so he was at an internet cafe, just playing straight there, and he was just sleeping on chairs and stuff. So like he's been a hardcore gamer ever since like he didn't feel so well. So like that's why he's here now, because he just loves gaming ever since that.
No wonder the wife asked.
Yes, yes.
Alright, thank you. 所以他之前呢其实也是有工作的，但是后来有一次因为生了一个很重的病，然后就有点卧床不起那种感觉。然后自从那一次就开始有接触到游戏，然后就开始越打越凶，然后就变得24小时，然后7天都在打游戏，然后还会去网咖去打游戏，然后打到他的老婆都说：“哎，你还好吗？你都不用睡觉吗？灯一直开着，这样好吗？”的程度。然后就久而久之，他就是发觉他自己就真的是非常热爱打游戏，然后打着就来到了这里。
对，这蛮难得的一个经验啊，有热情的一个玩家，最后成为一个职业选手。那另外一个问题也想要问一下，就是现在我们知道，因为每一队几乎都有教练、有后勤去协助他们在战术方面，或者是他们的一个日常的一些训练。那以他们来讲的话，我知道从很久以前好像就有想要再找教练。那没有教练这件事情，是不是对他们的一个训练，或者现在战术的一个体系里面造成一个很大的影响？
So next one is about your coach. So we understand that you don't have a coach right now.
Yeah.
So will that affect your training routine, or did you try to accomplish this obstacle by trying other methods, or are you trying to get a new coach maybe next season, or do you have anything that can share with us that how do you overcome this problem? Yes.
Well, originally I came in as coach, so I was actually coach, but I became a player, so I don't have any more time.
I see.
Like, it takes a lot of work to be a coach. Like, I feel that a lot of people can't appreciate a coach unless they're in a team, and
I
like by
see.
watching, it's not like evident that the coach makes a difference. But
I see.
really, the top tier teams have a really good coach, so, and they put a lot of time into that. Like while we're practicing, they're analyzing, and right now we don't have that time, so like we try to like XQ, me, Night Owl, like we try to like watch videos on our free time and like put together plans and stuff, but it's really not enough.
I
Like,
see.
and like because we're in game, we can't
Right.
think outside the box.
Right.
So we still are, but we're looking for a good coach. Any coaches out there that want to like help us win games, please contact me on Twitter or something,
Twitter.
or anybody,
Or
and-
line.
yeah, anything,
Yes.
please. But yeah, we really want a coach. Like any advice would be nice, to be honest. But
I
yeah,
see. Okay.
it's fairly stressful not having a coach, and I recommend any teams that want to make a team should also consider having a coach as well.
I see. Thank you for answering. 所以其实在妹说，他一开始进来的时候他是教练，但是
哦
他本来是教练，但是后来因为教练一开始大家可能觉得说，哦，教练好像没有在跟着队员一起打，好像没有那么重要。那他开始变成选手打之后，他就发现说，其实没有教练其实非常非常的重要，必须要有第三个角度来看整个队伍的表现以及平衡，这样子的话才能进步。那现在就是队员有时间的时候，就会拉之前打游戏的那个时间，还有练习，还有真的比赛的影片来看，然后想办法做出一些战术来，但时间是真的是不够的，所以他这边公开向大家说，如果有认识教练或想要当教练的，请积极联络他 ，Twitter 也好 ，Line 也好，他非常欢迎大家有兴趣可以成为他们的教练这样。然后他也告诉大家说，如果真的想要组战队的话，一定要找一个教练，真的很重要。
对啊，这个希望他们以后也能够持续进步。另外就是也想要请 Morris 最后跟大家就是跟他女儿说一段话，因为其实我觉得来到别的地方比赛这么长时间，身为一个爸爸，一定会非常想女儿。那虽然可能他的女儿现在年纪还很小，但是不见得听得懂他在说什么。但也许这一段过3年之后回过头来看，在他们比较艰难的现在这个时间点，然后爸爸为了追逐梦想来到这个地方，他有没有什么话要跟他的女儿说？
So next question toward Morris. We know that you're here for a long time and you probably miss your family and your daughter. So do you want to say something to them and maybe to your daughter because she's only 5 months old? We know she's still maybe too young to understand his words, but maybe 3 years, 4 years later when she can understand and wow, my dad is actually pretty amazing and competing in other countries and enjoying this great tournament. So maybe say something to the camera and to the family. In Japanese is fine. So yeah, thank you.
ファンというよりはこっちに長くいてやっぱり家族とか娘さんが見れなくて寂しいですだろうから家族と特に娘に向かって一言カメラに向かって言ってほしいです。で今はやっぱり言葉とか通じないと思うんですけど将来、これログ残るんで将来娘がこのログを見た時にお父さん海外で頑張ってたんだなって分かるように伝えてほしい。それでいく
将来、まず嫁さん、いつもありがとうございます。それしか伝えることがないな。娘、未来の娘、見てますか？パパ、こんな感じです。こんな感じです。一応海外で今頑張ってます。どうなってるかわかんないですけど、楽しくゲームをしてください。待ってます。
感觉好像很感人哦。
基本上是在讲说，我现在很努力，然后看着我吧，我很努力，我现在这种感觉，可是我很努力，请看着我，这种。
对，这个非常感人。希望以后女儿在长大之后能够可以看得到这一段 爸爸给他的一些话。那当然也谢谢他们接受我们的访问，也希望他们在未来的比赛能够继续加油。干巴爹！
ありがとうございます。頑張ります。ありがとうございます。
頑張って。